We see that the goblins have found the tip of the crystal at tip of some crystal on some island as an offshoot of Kazalgar. Now they've gone out there already, explored it, and now they're going back with more goblins to, I don't know, mine it, figure out what it is, do something about it. We've also seen that the Hallowfall people, right, the Arathi, are building a ship to go explore this crystal as well. Where is this crystal? What the hell's going on? Is it the next zone in 11.0.1? Let's see what Doran has to say.
So we got a whole bunch of new info from the new patch PTR with a ton of new data mined NPCs, dialogues, and almost concrete hints that we are going to another island off the shore of Kazakar. Apparently goblins have discovered a singing crystal near the Isle of Dorn within an abandoned and creepy place. The Arathi are building up an airship base to potentially reach it or maybe to reconnect with the mainland. The most interesting hint though is that this could very likely be the upper portion of Beledar. This place is cloudy. We've learned from the artwork that Beledar has the ability to draw in clouds. It's likely no one had discovered the upper point of Beledar because it was covered by the weather until we did something in Hallowfall to change that. With this artwork of stairs and a door into Beledar, looks like this crystal is going to be a major part of the new content in 11.1. So let's check out all the info because there is a ton of stuff to unpack.
Not to mention, don't forget the giant art piece on the wall in the Nerubian raid, right? In the palace raid. There's a giant picture of the crystal doing something. Clearly, Xal'atath has a plan for it. The Nerubians had a plan for it. And it's going to become very relevant.
If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else warcraft related, Gamio has some
Sam is in full spoiler
you can
mode.
check out with my
It's all
link.
speculation. None of it's been confirmed. None of it's been data mined. This is all just like looking at the art that Blizzard has released and trying to figure out what's going on.
Below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code DORAN to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing
Yeah, none of this is really spoilers because Blizzard released this art. This wasn't like art stolen or something.
You might have seen that I've been speculating about future Goblin content for nearly a year now and how we might be visiting Undermine, but now we have some pretty legit new information. 11.0.5 is on the PTR, so we have actually data mined a whole bunch of NPCs, dialogues that are so obviously setting up the next patch that it's definitely not even a speculation, something is going on, but we currently have about 3 different directions, so we don't really know what is going to come first. The biggest new content that we have in store are definitely the Haranir, because we have data mined a zone with internal name Rootlands below Hellfall. We know Roots of Lunar here, yada yada. I've been talking about it dozens of times. The Haranir are a key part.
I think they're going to save Rootlands, like I said before, for, you know, more of a bridge patch leading into the next expansion because of the elf connections with the Haranir and stuff like that. But I do think goblins and Undermine make a lot of sense for the War Within, right? At some point, finding an underground city in the expansion where we're literally talking about underground stuff going on all the time. I think that's going to happen for sure. The goblins are going to be relevant. And don't forget, Gazlo was featured as one of the main characters, even though kind of more fringe than the others, in the big book that led into the War Within. So I think the goblins are going to have their time to shine very soon.
Out of the cinematic, related to Olga's blood,
PTR equals spoiler for me. The only thing PTR about this is, the goblin conversations. Sure, that I guess if you want to say that's a spoiler, fine.
We are getting a zone
we still don't know what it's about.
Of the Isle of Dorn. It was said by Blizzard that originally we were supposed to get 5 zones from this island, but we got 4, as the 5th zone would spoil the main storyline if it was there from the start. So this is currently one of the strongest supported theories. Most of us expected this would be happening in 11.1, as it would be kind of a natural progression. We explored the depths, but we missed something. However, this new PTR info kind of came out of nowhere, like literally no one saw this coming. So the reason we've been talking about goblins for months now is that we have data mined a strange presence of them and their machinery kinda out of the blue. Furthermore, we made a decent connection with Undermine. Apparently, according to the Nerubians, there was some sort of a tunnel connecting Kazakar and Northrend, and it was likely that Kazan, Undermine, and Kazakar might share some sort of a connection. The original lore was that Deathwing's craziness caused the volcano to erupt and destroy Kazan, but the door that Blizzard had left open was that it had something to do with Azerite and Azeroth's world soul, and that the goblins may have dug too deep. With this connection and old god blood that we've learned is all over the Depths of Azeroth and goblin presence and a bunch of goblin items, we've been talking about Undermine coming back. There was further evidence for Undermine because originally in BFA, Blizzard wanted to add it with the Motherlode dungeon, but then they pulled out because it'll be a cheap attempt, but we know the city has been active. However,
it would be cool if we get like an Undermine-esque Suramar, size style city. It would be really cool to see a goblin city that big, get a bunch of lore reveals, get a bunch of dailies to do down there. I'd be all about that.
Let us lay waste to this realm.
Tony, thank you for the sub on YouTube. Welcome to our Scourge.
Now with PTR information, it is kind of going in that direction, but not really, and I don't really even know where to start.
Fire
We've got
Demon
dialogues
Balrog
from the Goblins, the Earthen, and the Arati, and all three of them and all these NPCs are doing some pretty crazy things. Let's first go over the info, and then we can figure out what could possibly be going on, and let's figure out what they all have in common. So, the Goblins listened to a call of a singing crystal across the water, but when they have arrived, the place was not only eerie and creepy, but it was also abandoned. First, they were thinking like these are the crystals they can just dig out and sell, but in fact, it wasn't.
Where the hell did Gazlo go?
Place.
Where did Gallywix go? This fucking guy is the biggest damn troll piece of shit around in all of Azeroth.
They can just...
I mean, this guy's complete garbage. I think, the whole Dreadlord theory about him is actually freaking hilarious, and I think it could end up being true. If you remember, Zaxxas came up with that whole theory. Unreal. Like, if he turns out to be a Dreadlord, and that's how, we end up seeing the eventual comeback of the Dreadlords of the storyline and everything else like that, I think he is Bobby Kotick, of course, that we all know that. He is literally the character of Bobby. But yeah, Gallywix is in prison for securities fraud. That makes sense too. Yeah, Deatharok, exactly. He is the Dreadlord Deatharok. And we know Sire Denathrius is out there somewhere too. The Dreadlords are going to show up again at some point. I don't know if they're going to be like the thing that leads to the end of the World Soul Saga. Like they're the tail that leads to the next 3 expansions. Who knows? But they're sitting out there doing their Dreadlordian things.
And just dig out and sell, but in fact, it wasn't. It was just a really strange place. Then, we learned that Gazlo is apparently preparing a Zeppelin to figure this one out. Now, I gotta say, this one kind of rules out Undermine for this first batch of new content because goblins would obviously know about Kizan and their own island, so this must be some sort of a new and undiscovered place, and it's probably not even that big. As we figured out, the goblins were the first ones that got this info, that discovered this place, and then the Earthen add onto this because they have heard about this goblin conversation. They've also learned about this discovery and the strange crystal found on an island, and then we learned they're also preparing an expedition of their own. They have created a new branch called Storm Rangers that are supposed to venture outside of Kazagar and lead an expedition. Lastly, we get an Arati conversation with much the same tones. We got a ton of Hellfall engineers, and these guys are building something complex and big. We learned what they're building is in fact an airship base on the surface of the island, and they, much like the others, are also planning the expedition. They definitely heard about the crystal, but I would say that these guys must be the most interested out of all of them because they literally came to this place just because of the crystal calling them, which they had also named the Emperor's Vision. Now, to add a bit more info, to add a bit more context, this isn't from the PTR, but we've discovered a kobold in the Ringing Deeps that apparently is not like the others. He has some different traditions, and he seems to be from some sort of an island, so obviously it appears that he's been building up this place from the start. So, let's summarize it real quick. A new island off the shore of the Isle of Dorn, with a singing crystal on it. The goblins, the Earth, and the Arati are all preparing an expedition in their own manner, getting the Zeppelins and the Griffins. This last bit obviously indicates that we're going there with them, and that the main storyline is going to be moving to this place, but what could this possibly be? So, some people have speculated that this could be the Undersea, or some sort of another zone in between.
Undersea, maybe. Like, we know Azara is going to come back at some point, but I think they're going to save any undersea stuff for that part of it, which I still think is going to happen in the Midnight expansion. And I think that's what these octopus and stuff are hinting at a little bit. Obviously, old god related.
Hellfall, because there is literally a sea here, but with this new info it doesn't make much sense because it seems to be happening at the surface level. So this leaves us with 2 possibilities at this point in time. Either Beledar isn't unique and multiple crystals have landed over this place, with possibly something splitting into at least 2 parts before impact, or this could be the upper portion of Beledar. The upper portion of Beledar sounds kinda unhinged to a lot of people on first glance, but it's actually not unhinged at all. It's all connected with the other hints. Some people have glitched through the roof of Hellfall, figured out there is a tiny bit about Beledar, but that is really gameplay stuff. We have the official artwork, and we know what the other side of Beledar looks like. It's literally the exact same thing, just a little bit less robust, but the other side is at least as tall as the point that we can currently see. Now, you might figure it out. I mean, sure, Beledar is big, but there is no way it is that big that the other side is literally on the surface level. However, just think about it logically.
That's the thing, like, I look at it, though, and I wonder, like, where would the top of it be, and would it be actually sticking out of the planet? But it could be. We know in Season of Discovery, which is actually connected in lore to retail WoW, there is a scene where Xal'atath is standing next to the tip of a crystal. It's not an island off the coast of Khazlagar. I believe it was in the Kalimdor somewhere. I don't know if it was Stranglethorn Vale or what, but there is a there is a spot where it is, could be Eastern Kingdoms, where the tip of the crystal is and Xal'atath is standing next to it. I don't think it's the same one as this, but interesting. Just
Beledar is just stuck in the actual ceiling of Hellfall, so it's only really fully piercing through one zone, and that is the Ringing Deeps. So it's entirely realistic that the upper pointy end is somewhere a little bit off the shore of the Isle of Dorn. It's possible that the island part is like that iceberg meme, and it's only a small pointy end, but it is connected to the entire giant landmass below. Now, another thing you might immediately say, if that is the case, wouldn't everyone have figured it out if it's so close to the Earth? I mean, they must have seen this place by now. Well, the conversation seems to point to the fact that it is cloudy in there. This makes complete sense with the previous video I made a few days ago. We've got some interesting early concept art of Beledar from some of the Blizzard artists. First artwork shows that Beledar can apparently draw clouds over it, where it gets completely shrouded, and the other part
literally has a gravitational pull. That's what the art specifically says here behind the chat box. It has a gravitational pull pulling the Earth's water from the ceiling and transforming it into clouds.
Over it, where it gets completely shrouded, and the other part shows that there is supposedly a door that will connect to that church in Hellfall, and there's going to be like a giant staircase leading inside Beledar. It would totally make sense that now that we are messing with the bottom portion of Beledar, some clouds might have cleared up, and that is why the island was now found. I somehow feel like all of this is connected, and that something may be going on with the upper portion of Beledar that will ultimately lead us to that doorway. Well, we will have to deal with Beledar from the inside, and this could potentially be the next raid. Now, the other possibility I mentioned was that since we don't know what this crystal is, it might have splintered into a small part and just landed here. However, I don't think this is really that likely, because we've seen what the full crystal looks like. It's incredibly engineered, neat, straight, geometrical, so it doesn't really look like it's splintered off into anything. Overall though, this might just be the content for 11.1, and looks like one of the zones is...
The whole theory of the crystal being like the basically the light's version of old gods, right? Where like the old gods themselves were sent out by the void just into space, and they eventually land on planets. That's the same thing with these crystals, right? That they're sent out by the light and eventually implant themselves on a planet and start to change that planet, maybe give it life, whatever it is. I think that theory is true. And there's even a theory that every single star in the sky is a crystal from the light, created by the light, and that's why we have stars in World of Warcraft. It doesn't have to be hot balls of gas like it does in our world. So all of those theories, they've yet to be disproven or proven, but they start to seem, more and more likely the more we dig into what the Hellfall crystal really is.
Going to be off the coast of the Isle of Dorn, and it's not just another underground layer. Thank you for watching. Check out the giant new Titan system called the Manifold over Azeroth, and check out my video on Perun and Slavic mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah. I think it's certainly a sound theory. Whether or not it's the other side of the Hellfall crystal, we'll have to see. It probably is. I can't imagine us finding, like, we just discovered this crystal for the first time ever, and now we're going to discover a second one back to back. Probably not, but we'll have to see. Obviously, the Hellfall descendants, the Arathi, will know. I think when they get there, they will know whether it's the other side of the same Beledar crystal they've been talking to for years now, or if it's something else. I guess we'll find out probably in the next patch.